Okay, so now we're going to take a look at sexual reproduction. And there are two parents usually. The offspring are created by the fusion of two haploid gametes, one sperm, one egg, to form a diploid zygote. The unfertilized egg is called the ovum, and it is rather large. It is a non-motile cell. The male gamete is a sperm. It is a small flagellated cell. The advantage to sexual reproduction is it increases genetic variability amongst the offspring since their genes are inherited from two different parents. Their variability produced by the offspring, the variability produced by the reshuffling of genes provides a greater adaptability to changing environments. So if an environment suddenly changes, there's a better chance that some of the offspring will survive and reproduce. The disadvantage to sexual reproduction is it's a problem for non-mobile animals and also for those that lead solitary lives. One solution to this, though, to this problem for the non-motile animals, or those that lead solitary lives, as we shall see, is called hermaphroditism. Okay, there's different types of fertilization, that is the union of the sperm and the egg. With aquatic invertebrates, okay, fish and amphibians, they have external fertilization. The eggs are shed by the female and fertilized by the male in the environment. This requires, of course, an environment that is usually a moist habitat, and timing is crucial so that the sperm meets the egg. The temperature and day length are also important. This type of fertilization can occur without the parents making any physical contact. Okay, like in aquatic invertebrates. Aquatic vertebrates do have physical contact. One male fertilizes the eggs. The male is present when the female releases the eggs. There is a courtship type relationship, and this can exist between fish and amphibians. For example, the toad, okay? The male toad mounts the female, he doesn't penetrate her, but he causes her to release a mass of eggs, and at the same time, the male releases sperm into the water, and the external fertilization occurs in the water, right where the couple are doing their hugging. Many zygotes result, but only a small number will survive. So we have a protective and resistant shell secreted around the egg to withstand harsh environment that prevents water loss and prevents physical damage, or in the case of fish and amphibians, they only have a gelatinous coating that surround their eggs. So we have oviparous, which is going to be when the shell is produced, but fish and amphibians we've been talking about only have a gelatinous type of coating that surround their eggs. Now there's also internal fertilization, and that occurs with terrestrial animals. The sperm are deposited in the female reproductive tract, so the sperm meets the egg inside the female body. This requires cooperative behavior that leads to copulation, which is called sexual intercourse. This requires sophisticated systems, copulatory organs to deliver sperm, receptacles to store and transmit the sperm to the egg. Now, with internal fertilization in terrestrial animals, there are fewer zygotes, but there's greater protection and parental care. The embryo develops in the female, so it is protected, and in the reproductive tract, we have the embryo development. Now, we have, for example, ovoviviparous, okay, where the kangaroo, for example, retains the embryo in the uterus, but only for a short time. Then it crawls out and completes development in the pouch that is attached to a mammary gland. In the viviparous, that is the placental animals, they have a development in the uterus and they're nourished by the mother's circulation. Oviparous, like birds, the fertilized eggs develop outside the body. This also occurs with crocodiles and a couple of mammals, but very few. But in any event, there's a lot of parental care, and the young are unable to exist independently. For example, birds feed their young, mammals nurse their young. The giant water bug, the female glues the fertilized eggs to the male's back, and he carries them for days, keeping them moist. A frog, is a certain type of frog, the male carries the tadpoles in his stomach until they hop out as young frogs. Some fish keep the young in their mouth, and seahorses also have an internal pouch, which is really their stomach. So there is this different types of development with internal fertilization. Okay, again, it requires cooperative behavior and sophisticated structures, fewer zygotes, and the embryo develops in the female, and we saw different types of examples of embryonic development. Ovoviviparous is the kangaroo. Again, this is important to understand because the embryo only stays inside the kangaroo for a very short time, and then it crawls out, not completely developed, but enough so that it completes its development in the pouch. Placental animals have a specialized organ in the uterus, and we saw oviparous have shells. Okay. Most mammals have an opening for the digestive system, for the elimination. For example, in humans, we have a rectum for defecation through the anus in both the male and the female. And there is going to be an open for the excretory or urinary system. In the female, the urethra is superior or anterior to the vagina. In the male, okay, the urethra extends through the penis. For the reproductive system in the male, it is also going to occur through the penis, and it opens at an opening called the meatus, but the female has a separate structure. The human reproductive system has internal organs and external genitalia. Reproductive cycles and patterns, in most animals, they are distinct reproductive cycles. These cycles are controlled by 1, hormones, and 2, by the environment. Temperature, day length, rainfall, lunar cycles. In other words, seasonal factors enter into the reproductive cycles and factors and patterns. For example, a female sheep has a 15-day cycle. She ovulates at the 8th day, but only during the fall, so that the lambs are born in the springtime. Now we want to look at this hermaphrodism for the solution to sexually reproducing organisms that lead solitary lives, okay, or have difficulty getting around to find a mate. Well, in hermaphrodism, each individual, see if I can get this going. Each individual has both female and male reproductive systems. So these individuals have both ovaries and testes. For example, earthworms and tapeworms. Tapeworms are parasites. But anyway, these animals have difficulty finding a mate because they are burrowing animals. Some hermaphrodites can fertilize themselves, like tapeworms, but most, however, must mate with another member of the same species. But they just have to find another member of their species. They don't have to look for a male or a female because each animal can donate and receive sperm. So they are simultaneously mate. Each individual is a potential mate. For example, in the common earthworm, okay, you can see during mating, 2 worms lie parallel to one another. The sperm of one are going to be passed to the female portion of the other, okay, and then the sperm of this earthworm down here, its sperm will be passed to the female portion of the earthworm that is lying adjacent to it. So during mating, the 2 worms lie parallel to one another. The sperm of one are passed to a special storage receptacle of the other, and the sperm of the other worm is passed to its partner. So both worms' eggs eventually are fertilized. Now we have barnacles. Barnacles are sessile marine animals that grow on rocks, and they are crustaceans. Each barnacle is equipped with a special extensible appendage. Each member has a cirrus to pass sperm and produce, and they can pass sperm, and each produces eggs. So this barnacle has this special appendage, and it's several inches long, and it is going to pass sperm into the other barnacle within reach. So there's a cross-fertilization occurring, and then the egg hatch as free-swimming larvae. A larva attached to a rock by a cement. It produces from glands at the base of its antennae, and it becomes an adult, and it eventually secretes a shell around itself. And the appendage previously mentioned is called a cirrus, and is homologous to the jointed legs of other crustaceans. It uses this also to collect food. So the serous is not only to transport sperm, but it uses it to collect food particles and then sweeps it over to its mouth to be swallowed and pass through its digestive system. So again, the barnacle is a sessile marine animal that grows on rocks, and they're crustaceans, and the barnacle is equipped with this special extensible appendage, several inches long, which passes sperm to other barnacles within reach. So you get a cross-fertilization occurring with this serous structure, and then the eggs hatch as free-swimming larvae, and they can attach to the rock by cement. Okay, and then eventually they secrete a shell around themselves and finish their development. Now, sequential hermaphrodism is when an individual can reverse its sex during its lifetime. If it's a female first, then it's called protogynous. If it's a male first, then it's protandrous. Okay, reef fish do this. Then there's also something called pseudohermaphrodites. They have either testes and ovaries, but the external genitals are of the opposite sex. This is an abnormal condition. The different types are, there are male pseudohermaphrodites, which have testes but female-like external genitals. And then there are female pseudohermaphrodites, which have ovaries but male-like external genitals. Okay, so we're going to take a break here, and then we're going to move into the human female reproductive system.